Hello, everyone. Welcome to Author Pep Talks. It's so good to see you all. Let's get started. Today, we're talking about an important topic, which is writing routines for people that hate routines. Raise your hand, put it in the comments if you are a writer who also hates routines. Let's check. I know there's got to be a couple of us. Maybe it's just me. All right. If you're like me, the phrase writing routine might make you feel constrained, anxious. Maybe it conjures images of rigid schedules, deadlines, the crushing weight of expectation, both real and imagined. And if you're someone who thrives on, say, spontaneity, on wild, unpredictable discovery, if you're the person who's constantly searching for the flow of inspiration, then the very idea of a routine can feel like a creative straitjacket. Does that feel familiar? As someone with ADHD, I'm very open about that on all of our AutoCrit channels. This feeling is deeply familiar to me. My brain thrives on novelty, on the chase of a new idea, on intense bursts of energy, usually at the most inconvenient times possible. Traditional routines often feel like trying to bottle lightning. And it often feels like something that I'm going to fail at before I even start. If that sounds familiar to some other people other than me. And yet here I am, a neurodivergent writer. I produce a high volume of work, and I somehow manage to keep showing up day after day. And I'm going to share at least my strategies for doing this. By ditching the traditional definition of routine, I was able to discover what actually works for my brain, not against it. And I would like to say there's a little secret. I find it very I can't speak today. I find it very liberating that you don't have to become a robot. You don't have to become this person that doesn't feel right to you in order to become a consistent writer. Trying to force yourself into a traditional routine when your brain is wired differently is a recipe for frustration and ultimately something that will cause you to give up. So, we are not going to talk about why you need to write X number of words per day. That's not my jam. If that works for you, I applaud you and also am in a little bit in awe of you. If you are like, give me a number, Bekah, and I will achieve this number every day between the hours of 5 a.m. and 8 a.m. Honestly, I wish I was you, but I am not. So we're going to talk about how to do this in a different way. So we have been sold a bit of a lie sometimes, haven't we? The idea that real writers wake up at 5 a.m. We write 2,000 words before breakfast, and then we create masterpieces in a sterile, silent process that we must suffer for our art. I don't know if you've heard that. I have heard that. I've had people come up to my face and be like, if you're not doing this, you're not a real writer. And I'll be like, well, my backlist begs to differ, but cool, you do you. I want you to celebrate that for some people that works. That's fantastic for them. I love it. We've talked about just that just now. I love that that works for some people, but for many of us, that's just not realistic. It's not appealing. It's like trying to make a butterfly fly along in a straight line. And this lie is particularly insidious because we see these idealized routines and we think, I can't do that, so I must not be a real writer. I can't do that, so I will never be successful. I have heard that hundreds of times. It leads to shame, procrastination, and ultimately, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you start the day saying, I can't do that, so I'm not going to be successful, then the chances of you being successful are rather low. Maybe you are one of those people that thrives on negative reinforcement, but that's not usually sustainable long term. In my experience and the experience of other creatives that I have spoken to who might also be neurodivergent or who are just not into rigidity, productivity isn't about conforming to a rigid schedule. It's about harnessing your unique energy and focus. Writing routines aren't about this rigidity, it's about support. All right. We are saying goodbye in this pep talk to the idea that writing routines are only about rigidity. They are about creating an environment where you have the best chance of success, where your words have a chance to breathe, to grow, where your creativity can finally go from your brain to the page. All right. This is a support, not a box that we're going to try to jam you into. Think of it less as, oh gosh, a jail cell for your creativity and more like a trellis for a climbing plant. I recently got wisteria in my backyard, so we're going to go with trellis. The trellis is not forcing the wisteria to grow, but it provides structure that it needs to reach its full potential. So for all of us who kind of have a visceral reaction to the thought of a rigid schedule, let's redefine what a writing routine can be. And I want you to understand that it's not about forcing yourself into a mold that doesn't fit. It's about finding your rhythm, your unique way of showing up for your words. Okay? All right, let's talk about micro rituals. If you've been with me before, you know that I'm obsessed with them. Micro rituals can also be micro commitments, and this is a way. It's not the daunting 5-hour commitment. Like, you are only a real writer if you can write for 3 hours a day, in the early morning, and nothing short of hospitalization stops you. I want you to forget that. I want you to commit to the least amount of time possible to replicate on a day-to-day basis. For some people, that's 5 minutes. Some people, it's 15 minutes. Some people, it's half an hour. For me, my micro ritual is 15 minutes. Every single morning, I reread my pages. I have my mug. I reread every single day. Doesn't matter. It is my time. I fiercely protect it. So can you commit to a few minutes every single day? Probably. We usually can find, no matter how busy you are, you can usually find between 5 and 15 minutes every single day that you can carve out as yours. And the beauty of a micro commitment is that it's almost impossible to resist. It's training your brain in a different way. Maybe yours is 5 minutes. So you're going to say, I'm going to open the document. Well, that's easy enough. I think we can manage that. I'm going to write one sentence, maybe two. All right, that's great. But often those tiny little actions are going to give you a little bit more momentum because it's lowering the barrier of entry. And I don't want you to just lower it. I want you to make it so low that you trip right over it and into your writing. We are taking away the time constraint that causes us to stop. Instead, we are going, no, I have 5 minutes. Maybe that 5 minutes is when you're hiding from your children in the bathroom every evening. Maybe that's just me, after your shower and being like, nope, I'm going to write on my phone, wrapped up in a towel in the bathroom where no one can get me because it's the door with the lock. And that's going to be my time. Whatever works for you. For my ADHD brain, though, this was a game changer. My executive function can balk at big, undefined tasks. Does that sound familiar to anyone? If I just say write a book, that's too big. I have to break it down. But 5 minutes, that's a tiny, manageable bite. 15 minutes every morning, that's my time. That's Bekah time. That's my 15 minutes. And what happens often is that those 5 minutes tend to extend. If you know that you're guaranteed 5 or 15, and you get in your flow because this is yours, you've protected it, it often turns into 30. Sometimes it can turn into longer because once you're engaged, hyperfocus kicks in, and all of a sudden, you're producing words, you're writing, you're getting stuff done. And the key to making this micro commitment work is lowering the bar so that you can get started. Because once we get started, we can keep going. I see in the comments that we have the 50-word writing session the other day. The 100 words a day habit got me restarted last summer. Yeah, this is how it starts. Okay, anytime, anywhere. You'll see in our Facebook group that I sometimes post pictures and selfies of Bekah writing in the wild because I use dictation and I have no shame. I will dictate my books anywhere. One of my favorite places to dictate is our tax assessor's office coffee shop lobby. Say that 5 times fast. Is it weird to be writing spicy romance at the tax assessor's office? Maybe. But does my concentration and the fact that there is a duck pond that is safely away from me through a door, and really, really good chai, and also no one's ever in there, it's a recipe for success. So let's let go of the idea that writing only happens at a desk. If you are a desk-oriented person, this could feel uncomfortable, and if you love your desk and you want to keep writing at your desk, I'm not telling you that you have to give it up. But I want us to let go of the idea that only a desk is possible. Your writing space can be anywhere. It can be your phone. I did so much writing when I was commuting on the train. It can be a notebook. It can be in the coffee shop. It can be through dictation while you're walking the dog. The world is your canvas. You are not chained to a desk. You can capture ideas when and where they hit. I have a waterproof notebook and pen, one of those. I think they use them at, for people that respond to hurricanes or something, or it's an oil-based pen. Anyway, I have one that's next to the shower because sometimes I get the best ideas in the shower. You can use voice notes, you can use dictation, you can jot down thoughts on napkins. The goal is to acknowledge those fleeting ideas out of your mind and into tangible form before they vanish. My ideas strike all the time at usually the most inopportune times. I had a full scene come through my brain while I was searching for dried mango at Costco the other day. Is it helpful on the first Friday or middle Friday of the month to stop in an aisle of Costco so that you could write something down? No, that is actually how you die. It was helpful, though, to pull my giant cart over to the side, pull out my phone, use voice notes, ignore the fact that people were like, why is she muttering about cowboys into her phone? And keep that idea, because that scene was, if I do say so myself, brilliant. And I want to include it in my book. So I let go of what other people are thinking about me. I let go of that a long time ago. And I captured that idea because I don't get to control when my ideas show up. I often have ideas when I am supposed to be doing something else entirely. I have a system. I have a little notebook that I write things down. Put that in there. If I have to spend all of my time waiting for the perfect time or a designated desk, most of my best ideas would evaporate. True story. I've learned to always have a way to capture my thoughts. I have learned to harness the spontaneous burst of creative energy whenever I can, because this is how my brain works. Okay. Instead of rules, because who here dislikes rules when it comes to creativity? I like rules in some capacity, but not rules around my creativity. Instead, I like to think about creating rituals because a ritual is a meaningful action that signals to your brain it's time to create. Okay, this could be about making a specific cup of tea before you write. Maybe it's lighting a candle, putting on a particular playlist. Maybe it's just stretching. I don't know, whatever it is you do. It's a gentle cue, not a command. All right, these rituals are personal, they are flexible, and they will be different for you than they are for me. It's designed to ease you into the creative zone without the pressure. So when I do sit down to for my desk, I I know that I'm going to write. So if I do have some designated writing time that I've built into my calendar, I use Pomodoros. So if it's a Pomodoro time, I actually do have a little bit of a ritual. I have to get my notebook out and arrange it just so. I have at least 2 beverages. I actually have 4 on my desk right now because I am a chaos gremlin this morning. I have a snack because I am who I am. I have my chapstick and I have my headphones are charged. And I have to put things in a certain order because that's how I signal to my brain that this is time to write. I found that the rituals personally provide kind of that on-ramp my brain needs. It's not a rule saying it's time to write, you must write, but rather a series of kind of comforting, familiar actions that subtly guide me into that focused state. I know what to expect when I do these things. For me, it's also about keeping that time limited. I can get distracted very easily. So I give myself about 3 minutes to kind of get myself situated. I have a standing desk, so I have to decide if I'm going to stand, if I'm going to sit. I have my little like weird foot thing so that I can walk because I have a walking pad. It's whatever I choose to do. These little cues tell my brain it's time to shift gears. And because it's not forced, I'm much more likely to engage. This is not a rule, it's a ritual. Rituals are easier for your brain to accept in a lot of manners. It diminishes the power that a rule has and instead creates something that you actually want to do. It brings this that instant visceral reaction that you have when you set up these rules for yourself where you're like, "Oh, I can't meet this expectation." It kind of sends that away and instead gives you something to look forward to, something to practice. You are not you're not alone if this is a struggle. This is something that a lot of authors struggle with, a lot of creatives struggle with. I would say that actually a lot of people in general struggle with, but it's about finding what makes you feel comfortable, what gives you that best chance of success. Tammy asks, how can you walk and type at the same time? I don't. I use dictation. I walk and talk. Yeah, I never stop talking. I have a headset that's Bluetooth. You will not get to see my whole office because it's frankly a disaster right now. But I move my screen and I actually pace my office while dictating. And I need movement. It's something that I know about myself. Let's talk about energy fluctuations. Do I have any other people that are chronically ill? I am. So, one of the things that I have to be really careful about is the fact that my energy fluctuates dramatically, sometimes in the same day. And if I am flaring, for example, for my chronic illness, then I can't always do what I want to do. And then I get really down on myself. And then I dissolve into a puddle of like self defeating narratives, and I just can't function. So, for my routine averse, I want you to honor your energy fluctuations. Okay, it sounds very woo when I put it that way, but I do want you to honor it because we are honoring our creativity and we're honoring the fact that our energy changes. We are not machines. Okay, some days you're going to feel really energized and ready to tackle a big writing project to maybe it's going to be a 9 pomodoro day and you're going to get all of the things done. Other days, like earlier this weekend, I had a migraine that lasted for 36 hours and it sucked. And I had stuff that I had to get done, so I was trying to work through it, and that was not successful. That is definitely not the best stuff I've ever written. I felt drained on like a spiritual level as well as a physical one because it's hard. It's hard to force yourself to do things when your brain and your head feels like there's a little ice pick that's like going through your skull. So instead of fighting it, I actually embrace my low energy days as much as I can. My writing routine for a low energy day where I'm not feeling well is going to be about brainstorming, or perhaps it's going to be reviewing my notes. Perhaps it's going to be working away from a screen because that triggers my migraines. Maybe it's going to be about printing out my character worksheet of doom and hand filling that out. It's you might surprise yourself all of the different things that you can do if you have a low energy day. On my high energy days, oh my gosh, I turn into the ultimate productive person sometimes. I can get so much done when I can focus that. The key, of course, is to listen to your body and your mind. I don't want you to subscribe to a belief that you must have this rigidity in your life that doesn't allow for the fluctuation of your actual human body. That your energy levels are real and you are not failing if you don't write today because you don't feel good. Okay? I don't want I see that advice where people are like, "Power through." Like, "Okay, you've clearly never had a chronic illness. I can't power through. I would love to be able to make this go away." But this is what I deal with for life. So, some days I might, but other days I'm gonna listen to my body because energy fluctuates. As an ADHD, writer, my energy is also, when I'm not dealing with chronic illness, my energy is not exactly linear. I don't know if anyone else has non-linear energy, but there are days where I can literally write 8,000 to 10,000 words. I had one the other day where I wrote for 14 hours. My family did not acknowledge me. I was a dehydrated husk of a person who lived only on Cheez-Its, but I wrote so many words. And then there's other days where even opening the document feels like, nah, not gonna do that. So I instead have decided that I'm going to honor my energy, and I'm going to force myself, I'm going to acknowledge that forcing myself on low energy days just leads to burnout and self loathing. And instead, I've learned to pivot. So that is what I would like you to do. I capitalize on the surges, I acknowledge the low days, and I just kind of let myself believe that each day I'm making progress on something. And this flexibility was hard for me to learn. I am a gifted kid burnout. Okay. I Learning how to give myself flexibility is one of the hardest things I've ever learned. And I will not sit here and tell you that I didn't learn this without some like professional assistance. That's who I am as a person. The flexibility, though, is what, when I embrace that and when I really took that on, it's what it actually allows me to have consistent high output over time, is learning to do this. Tip number 5. All right, let's shift our focus from what we didn't do to what we did do. Who does checklists? Does anyone else do checklists? I think we do. We go. Yes, Tammy, excellent. Allow yourself to be human. All right. I love a good checklist, and I really enjoy celebrating what I did do instead of putting all my focus on what I didn't do. So instead of a to-do list, I actually create a done list. Although I'll be honest, some days I also have a to-do list. But at the end of the day or the week, I want you to get into the habit of writing down every single little thing that you did do, that you accomplished. You could just do it in a spreadsheet if you're a spreadsheet person. I actually do it in a spreadsheet, and it's pretty remarkable to review on days where I feel like I'm a failure at life and I can't do anything because the imposter syndrome is hardcore. Even if it's just a sentence that you brainstormed this character today, that you did do some, you edited chapters 2 and 3, whatever it is you did, I want you to write it down. So even if you just created one idea or voice note, I want you to acknowledge it. Maybe you just did a little bit of research. Acknowledge it. seriously, because seeing tangible evidence of your project progress, no matter how small, is incredibly motivating. Over time, it helps you build momentum. And for me, my done list is actually what I use as my secret weapon against ADHD paralysis and shutting up my inner critic. My brain loves novelty and visible progress. I use our goals in AutoCrit. I use other ways to track my progress. And when I can see something that I've accomplished, even if it's those tiny tasks, it actually creates a powerful dopamine hit. I have the shirt Chasing Dopamine. Yeah, this helps chase that. You get a dopamine hit, it fuels future work. It combats that feeling of I haven't done enough. What am I going to do? You read through everything you have done, and it validates the sheer volume of small steps that add up to significant output. I think we've all realized that it's not just sit down at your desk and churn out a book. That's not the process. There's so many little things that add up in order to create that book. And I want you to take 5 minutes and acknowledge that on a daily or weekly basis. Whatever works for you, I want you to try that because it is so handy. Oh yes, Cassie calls it a Tadal, or someone called it a Tadalis. Stephanie, yes, amazing. This is something that I'd love it if you would try it because I find it to be so productive. It also is helpful if afterwards you want to review all the little steps later when you're writing for a second project and you're like, oh wait, I actually need to do this as well. Multiple things. So this is how I want to end our pep talk in a few minutes. I want you to know that you're not broken. You just have a different process, and that's okay, because the goal here isn't to force you into someone else's idea of a routine. I don't ever want to do that. The goal is to empower you to discover your own path to consistent creating. It's about building that supportive framework that enables your creativity rather than stifles it. I want you to lean into your creativity, however that looks. So if you want to employ a few of these steps, I want you to think of it as an experiment. Try different micro rituals or micro commitments. Try different times of day. See what sparks joy. All right? What feels natural? What might gently pull you towards your writing? And when something doesn't work, I don't want you to see that as a failure. I want you to see that as valuable data. Sometimes things don't work. Adjust, adapt, try again. My writing process is a constant iteration of experiments. Honestly, what worked yesterday might not work today, and that's okay. I do have over time built in a pretty deep bench of things that I know usually work, but I didn't get there just knowing those things. It was trial and error and honestly, it's a lot of frustration to get me to that point. I don't see if, item A doesn't work today, I don't see that as a failure, but rather a little news flash that my brain is giving me that I need to embrace my flexibility. I need to be willing to adapt. I need to pivot based on my energy and interests. This is what allows me to be who I am and to produce what I do, despite or perhaps because of my ADHD. So you're not broken because you don't fit the traditional mold. You aren't. Your creative process is just different, and that's okay. I want you to embrace it. Give yourself permission to explore, to be messy, to be unconventional. I think the world needs your unique voice. I think it needs it to be written in a way that feels authentic to you. So, yeah, if you take one thing away today, let it be this. Your unique brain, whether it's ADHD, another form of neurodivergence, or just a dislike of routines, is not a barrier to your writing. It's a source of immense strength. Your thinking, your bursts of hyperfocus, your passion, these are your fuel to creating the content that you want to create. So stop fighting your brain and start collaborating with it. That's how we unlock our true writing potential, just like the way I did. So Here we go. Here's my little reminder. You can screenshot it if you need to. All right, let me look through this comments real fast. Okay. Remember, if you're not part of Novel 90 and you want to be part of a community to have regular pep talks, accountability sessions, and more, we are still open to new people to want to join Novel 90. Chat, you guys can tell people who might be on the fence about why Novel 90 is awesome. But I am the coach of Team Plancer. You will be hyped up one way or the other with my pep talks. So this has been kind of the end of what our planned pep talk is for today. I hope this was helpful. I hope that you got something from this. I want you to understand that this is something that a lot of people struggle with and that you're not alone. So keep writing. I believe in you. And I hope that you have a wonderful day. If you are part of AutoCrit Novel 90, don't forget we do have midday sprinters this afternoon. Bye. Hang in there.